Are you nervous about speaking in public? Learn the 3 C's of presenting today. Hi, my name is Katie Lebeds, and I am a professional speaker, certified instructor facilitator. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, project management professional, coach, and mentor. And I also own a company called Learning to Lean. Do you know what all the people on the screen have in common? They all have crippling stage fright. They all have anxiety before they go to perform on stage. If you're like them or maybe just a little bit nervous, today we're going to help you through your nerves and your anxiety to prepare for any presentation that you may be giving. Today we're going to talk about the 3 C's of presenting: confidence, connection with your audience, and calm. Let's get started. When we talk about confidence, we're going to be covering a powerful stance, steady eye contact, facial expressions, and the 6 P's of presenting. The first topic under confidence is powerful stance. Before a stressful event, practice a 2-second power pose. Think of Wonder Woman or Superman. Hands on your hips, shoulders back, chest up, head up. Now, you want to practice this power pose, but not necessarily in the room before you get started. I suggest that you practice this outside of the room or in the restroom beforehand. Now, during the event, keep an expansive posture. Don't collapse into yourself. Keep your chest open but not exaggerated. Keep your head level or slightly raised. We don't want you looking down at the ground or at your feet during the presentation. Along the topic of powerful stance, we don't want you to slouch. So just like your mom told you growing up, we want you to stand up straight and confident. Don't touch your neck, your hair, or cross your arms in front of your chest. I was in a training session one time where they videotaped you as you spoke, and one of the attendees that was sitting next to me could not absolutely believe that she was touching her hair the entire time that she was speaking until she watched the replay video. So if you're not sure, make sure that you practice in front of someone else or in front of a mirror. And remove any distractions such as badges, necklaces, ties, etc. If you can't leave it alone, then don't wear it. It's very distracting to the audience if you are wearing a badge around your neck and you keep touching it or pulling on it, or if you have a retractable badge holder on your belt and you keep pulling your badge back and forth. So anything that could be tempting that you know could possibly be a distraction, just don't wear it that day. It's not worth it. Don't be Elvis. So what does that mean? Make sure that when you're giving your presentation that you are not pacing back and forth in front of the screen, that you're not shuffling from foot to foot, or doing any strange dance moves either. So what we want you to do is to make sure that you are in a comfortable spot in front of the room. Normally when I'm presenting, if I have the option, I like to present to the right-hand side of the screen as you're looking at it. And again, make sure that you're not moving around because any motion that you're doing is a distraction to the audience and taking away from the information that you're trying to present. The next topic under confidence is steady eye contact. Speak to people's eyes. So that builds rapport, it fosters trust, and it helps you to read the crowd with your eyes as you're speaking for understanding. So maybe while you're giving the presentation, you have a number of people with quizzical looks on their face. That probably means that they don't understand, so that would be a good time to stop and ask questions for clarity. Don't just pick a spot in the back of the room and just stare at it. After a while, people are going to wonder what you're staring at in the back of the room. Don't turn your back to the audience. First of all, it's rude. And second of all, if you have somebody with a hearing disability that is reading your lips, they won't be able to do that if you have your back to the audience. And also, don't just pick on one person to stare at the entire time. Not only will that make them uncomfortable, it will be very obvious that you're doing that too. If you're in a situation where you're very nervous and have trouble with eye contact, and you have some friends in the audience, you may ask them ahead of time to say, hey, I'm going to be looking at you during the presentation. If you could just glance back at me and smile, or maybe even give me a thumbs up if it's appropriate, that will just help to ease any jitters that you have during that particular presentation. The next topic under confidence is facial expressions. Your face is conveying emotion, whether you realize it or not. To be honest, this is one of the items that I have had to work on the most. I am very passionate about the information that I am presenting, and sometimes that passion does not always come across with a smile. So make sure that you take the time to pay attention to what your face is doing, your facial expressions. And again, like I mentioned before, practice in front of a mirror or in front of a friend so they can give you feedback. My guess is that you probably are not aware if you're doing something funny with your face. Did you know that there are over 250,000 different facial expressions? Within 30 seconds of entering that room, you make a charming or alarming impression. Now, that's not just 30 seconds after your presentation starts. That's 30 seconds as soon as you enter that room with other individuals in the room. So it's very important to pay attention to what your face and your facial expressions are conveying. Now let's cover the 6 P's of presenting: projection, pitch, pace, pauses, pronunciation, and fillers. So what is projection? Projection is how loud or how soft you are utilizing your voice. So you want to ensure that when you are speaking, that the people in the back of the room and the front of the room can hear you. Pitch. Pitch is the gentle ebb and flow of your voice. So as we ask questions, your pitch normally goes up. So I will ask a question: do you like continuous improvement? So you can hear that my voice goes up at the end, as opposed to, do you like continuous improvement? Therefore, people cannot discern whether or not that's a question if you don't have that pitch. Pace. How quickly or how slowly are you speaking? I grew up in the Midwest and typically have a tendency to speak very fast. So that is something that I have had to work on to ensure that I am speaking at a pace in which people can easily follow. The next one is pauses. And I think pauses are the topic that people worry about the most. A pause to a presenter may seem like an endless amount of time, when actually probably only 10 seconds have gone by. Don't be afraid of pauses. So if you ask a question and the audience needs time to respond, make sure you're not trying to fill that void. So I may ask a question: how many people here understand what a SIPOC diagram is? If I don't get an answer right away, I will just pause for a few seconds longer. Though it may seem like an eternity to me, you have to give your audience a chance to be able to react. You can also use pauses to drive an impact to the statements that you're making. Pronunciation. Please make sure that you are presenting that you know how to pronunciate all of the words in your presentation. Typically, it can be challenging to produce or to pronounce someone else's name. So just make sure that you've gone over any strange words or maybe any difficult names ahead of time. And finally, fillers. What are fillers? Fillers are things that we say unconsciously, maybe when we're nervous. We'll say things like, yeah, okay. We've all heard it, we've all seen it. Just practice And if you are not aware, again, practice in front of somebody else that you know so they can let you know what fillers that you're using. Next, let's talk about connection with your audience. Under connection with your audience, we're talking about know your audience, starting off with a bang and being passionate. One of the most important parts of your presentation is to know who is in your audience. And why do you want to know that? Well, while you're creating your presentation, you want to make sure that you have addressed any of the specific interests or needs of your audience. All of your audience is coming in and thinking what's in it for them. So you want to make sure that you're able to address that by knowing your audience. Maybe your boss is going to be in the presentation and your boss is a big fan of data. You may want to include a slide or two with the data on the information that you're presenting so that information resonates with him or her. The next topic under connection with your audience is starting off with a bang. So when you begin your presentation, start with an interesting fact, statistic, or a line that will draw in your audience. What I like to tell people is starting off your presentation with some information or a visual that will make your audience members sit up in their seat and pay attention. Some common terms you could use or phrases would be, did you know, or on average. Now, if you think back to a few seconds ago when we started this slide presentation, I talked to you about, did you know what all of these stars have in common? That's one way I can start off with a bang. The final topic under connection is to be passionate about your topic. Now, I understand that sometimes being passionate about your topic could be trying to be passionate about safety, trying to be passionate about a process. Those can all be challenging to be passionate about, but it can also mean that you can come prepared with the information that you are trying to portray to your audience. And we don't want you to be like the teacher from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, who is definitely not passionate about roll call every day. So be passionate about your topic and make sure that you have reviewed the slides thoroughly before you get to your presentation. Our final C for the 3 C's of presenting today is calm. Be prepared and be yourself. Be prepared. First of all, be mindful of the time. You want to make sure that you start on time and that you end on time. Know your presentation. Sometimes we're in situations where a presentation has been created for us. That's fine, but you need to make sure that you have thoroughly reviewed your presentation and that you understand the material you're presenting. I had a great suggestion years ago from a very good friend of mine who told me when you're creating a presentation, make sure that there's something in there that will catch your eye and give you confidence. So one of the items that I use is that I make sure during my presentation there's some sort of pink color. Pink's my favorite color. So in this presentation there was a pink lotus flower. Sometimes I'll just use pink font color. That just gives me an extra boost of confidence, and I normally put that towards the end of the presentation. Speaker guides are a guide, not story time. So in PowerPoint or Keynote, you have the notes page. Please just make that as a reference, not as something that you're reading off of to the audience. And we want you to speak to the presentation. The audience already knows how to read. So we want you to make sure that you are able to add some color to your presentation, maybe add in a personal experience, maybe add in an additional reference. The use of visuals is fantastic also. I strongly encourage you to be yourself. Be yourself regardless of how crazy or maybe how nerdy you are. Just relax and be yourself during the presentation. Being yourself will resonate much more than you trying to speak to your presentation and model after someone else. And finally, you've already won. By being selected to give this presentation, by being prepared, by practicing, by actually showing up, you've already won. So make sure that you celebrate your success. Here are a few presenters' mistakes to avoid. As I mentioned earlier, starting late and wasting time. Make sure that you start on time and you are cognizant of people's schedule. Being poorly prepared or the lack of content knowledge. Again, like I mentioned, if a presentation is being prepared for you and you are going to deliver it, please make sure that you practice your presentation and you have reviewed the materials, asking any questions that you have on the content ahead of time. Displaying distracting habits such as touching your hair, touching your neck, playing with your badge. Make sure that if you know that you have these habits, anything distracting that you can remove from your body, that you should do that. Ignoring participants' needs. So maybe you have some participants that are looking at you with questioning eyes and just don't understand your content. Make sure that you stop and check for understanding. Again, don't be afraid of those pauses. Lacking enthusiasm. We've all been there. We've all experienced death by PowerPoint. Don't make that your presentation. And also don't read from a script. It's fantastic to have notes, but you shouldn't necessarily need your notes when you come to the day of your presentation. You can have them there for safety, but you shouldn't read off of them. Neglecting to address WIFM. So WIFM is what's in it for me. Neglecting to address that of your audience. Make sure that when you are presenting that you are addressing the needs of your audience, and that ties back to knowing who your audience is. And also a getting it done mentality. You want to avoid that. And what I mean by getting it done mentality is you know that you have to give a presentation on safety or the evacuation process in the office. That's not a very sexy presentation, but you also just don't want to flip through the slides quickly and without any passion in regards to the topic. Because in fact, you're trying to keep people safe. In today's session, we covered the 3 C's of presenting: confidence, connection with your audience, and calm. Thank you for joining today's session. Again, my name is Katie Lebeds, and you can reach me at learntoleannow@gmail.com or our website, learningtolean.training. We offer a variety of continuous improvement consulting opportunities and training just like this one. Thanks and have a fantastic day.